This story begins with Randall and his party making their way to the most dangerous dungeon to ever exist. They trek for miles, searching for the dungeon's entrance. As usual, Randall carries all the luggage, struggling to keep up with the rest. Loig, the party's vanguard, yells at him to stop lagging behind and threatens that if he can't carry the load, he will leave the party. With no choice, Randall accepts this harsh reality and shoulders the heavy pack. Hours later, they finally reach the imposing entrance of the god-slaying dungeon, and the party leader announces they're going in. As the members step inside the dangerous dungeon, Randall calls out to Ray, his loyal dog, asking him to come along. The moment they enter, monsters immediately attack the party, forcing everyone to draw their weapons quickly. Feudo, the party leader, turns to Randall, instructing him not to get involved in the fighting but to focus on reporting what he observes. Randall reluctantly agrees, feeling bad about not joining the battle. As the party struggles against the overwhelming assault, Feudo admits that things aren't going well. Suddenly, Randall shouts a warning about 5 monsters approaching from the left, and Feudo immediately delivers a powerful slash against the approaching creatures. The chaos intensifies as monsters swarm from every direction. With no escape route, the party members panic. Randall spots a monster sneaking up behind Loig, the party vanguard, and quickly warns him. Loig spins around just in time, slashing the creature before it can strike. Instead of thanking Randall, the ungrateful scum yells at him, calling him an idiot and warning him not to be late with his alerts next time. Soon after, the team reaches the boss floor of the dungeon, and things take a turn for the worse when 5 giant minotaurs appear, blocking their path. These aren't ordinary monsters, they are the floor bosses of the god-slaying dungeon. Feudo stares in disbelief at the towering beasts and urgently orders everyone to scatter and run for their lives. Everyone starts to run, but the minotaurs waste no time launching a devastating attack that causes a massive explosion. Burdened by the heavy luggage slowing him down, Randall asks Feudo what to do about the load. But Feudo yells at him, saying Randall is in charge of the luggages and needs to carry them because that's its responsibility. Carrying the luggage of 5 people, Randall can't keep up as they flee. During the escape, Loig turns to Mela, the team's so-called genius, and asks if she has any ideas. After an awkward silence, Mela thinks of something dark and sinister. She coldly says someone must sacrifice their life for the others to survive. Loig laughs and bluntly declares that Randall will be the sacrificial lamb. The cruel suggestion shocks Randall. His own teammates are seriously considering using him as bait. Quella immediately protests, defending Randall against the injustice. But Loig confronts her sharply, asking if she's willing to sacrifice herself instead. His question cuts through Quella like a knife. Randall desperately looks to Quella for her answer, but the fraudulent clout chaser remains silent, keeping her head down as she runs ahead, leaving Randall behind. Far behind, Randall realizes his former friends have made their choice. They are willing to let him die to save themselves. As the minotaurs close in, Randall knows if he doesn't act fast, he'll be beast buffet served up fresh. In that desperate moment, he sees Feudo, his friend and party leader, return to meet him. A flicker of hope sparks across Randall's face. He thinks Feudo came back to help with the luggage. But to his utter shock, Feudo reveals the harsh truth. He admits he always planned to kick Randall out of the party, and this dungeon was meant to be Randall's last mission before being discarded like trash. Before Randall can say a word, the heartless backstabber pulls out his sword. The final betrayal comes as Feudo launches a deadly attack, striking down the person who trusted him most, then coldly declares it was for everyone's good. Feudo stands over Randall with cold eyes, wielding the sword of betrayal, while Randall clutches his wounded stomach. The party leader delivers his final cruel words, telling Randall not to think ill of him, claiming his actions are for the good of everyone. He adds that Randall will be remembered as a legend if he sacrifices himself. Without looking back, Feudo takes off running toward the dungeon exit. Behind him, Randall collapses to his knees, struggling to hold himself upright. The monstrous minotaurs lumber forward with thunderous steps, ready to finish what the party has started. Randall feels ready to give up. None of his party members even cared to look back. They all chose to save themselves. Just then, one giant minotaur approaches from behind, preparing to strike Randall with its giant axe. But Ray will not abandon his master. The loyal wolf dog charges at the massive beast, biting and snapping despite being vastly outmatched. Randall watches his faithful companion battle the minotaurs and screams for Ray to stop. But the brave wolf refuses and continues to fight with everything he got. Randall begs his dog to escape and save himself, insisting there's no need to sacrifice everything for someone like him. Things get worse when the minotaur catches Ray by the neck, and before Randall's very eyes, strikes the dog's head with its sharp, giant axe. Ray howls mournfully and collapses instantly from the brutal assault. Still, the loyal dog tries to comfort Randall even in his darkest hour, licking his face with happiness. Ultimately, the dog slumps and dies in a pool of his own blood, and Randall cries uncontrollably, but the Minotaurs press forward, closing in with their massive weapons, ready to end his life. Randall can already see Heaven's Gate and prepares to meet his dog soon. But as the Minotaur attacks, a much larger and more ferocious ray appears out of nowhere and intercepts the attack. Randall is in utter disbelief, struggling to understand what's happening. This berserk ray battles the Minotaurs with the brutality of a beast on steroids and ultimately takes them down, shocking Randall. Suddenly, a notification appears, stating that Randall has met the conditions for necromancy. It announces that with the release of this power, Ray can now be summoned. With this new revelation, Randall looks again at the wolf before him and Ray's spirit smiles, confirming he truly is there. Randall reaches out excitedly to touch his dog's face, but then notices something shocking. Ray now appears as a spirit, slightly transparent and floating. Pang of sadness strikes Randall as he realizes that because of his own weakness, his loyal companion has truly died and understands that Ray's spirit presence is as a result of the Necromancer ability he has just acquired. Though Ray died because of his lack of skill, the wolf is grateful to remain with his master through necromancy. Overwhelmed with emotion, Randall cries bitterly. Despite the dog's death due to his shortcomings, Ray is still genuinely happy to be by his side. Randall considers himself truly blessed to have such a loyal friend, and with heartfelt sincerity, he thanks Ray. Randall surveys the fallen Minotaurs scattered around him, contemplating what to do with their bodies. He recalls a voice that spoke to him at the brink of death, revealing that he absorbed the Minotaur's powers alongside Ray's. This realization sparks the possibility that he can summon these beasts just like his wolf companion. Suddenly, one of the Minotaur corpses stirs and rises from the ground, catching Randall off guard. He stares at the massive creature standing before him, uneasy as he senses it will follow the same fate as Ray. Suddenly, Randall feels a massive surge of aura coursing through him, sending a shock through his entire body. He realizes this might be the absorption ability the notification mentioned. To test it, he quickly assumes a karate stance and punches the wall in front of him. A huge crater forms with a thunderous crack, confirming he has absorbed the Minotaur's strength. His eyes then shift to the lifeless Minotaur lying nearby. He considers what to do with the valuable body, and he also can't just leave Ray's corpse behind in the dungeon. Lost in thought, the system suddenly activates again, announcing he has learned a new skill, Coffin of the Dead Spirit. Randall feels a rush of excitement as he decides to test the new skill. He activates Coffin of the Dead Spirit on Ray, and a mystical coffin materializes, allowing him to safely store Ray's corpse. Impressed by the power of the ability, Randall sees its usefulness and wonders if he can do the same with the Minotaur's body. Suddenly, a Minotaur spirit emerges behind him, growling with authority. The system announces the Minotaur is now available for use. Randall smiles and asks the spirit if it can help carry the corpses. The Minotaur nods firmly in response. Grateful, Randall thanks the creature and then asks if it likes the name Ace, and the Minotaur growls in affirmation, accepting its new name. Randall smiles in delight as Ace responds positively to his new name and then asks the beast to take care of him. The system then displays that Ace's status has risen significantly thanks to familiar strengthening. Both Ray and Ace have grown much stronger, with Ray showing even greater power after defeating the 5 Minotaurs in the dungeon. Randall beams with satisfaction. He has graduated from being a mere luggage carrier to a true necromancer. Now, he looks forward to finding other necromancers or perhaps returning to clear the dungeon once more and anticipates new adventures ahead. One thing remains certain: this time he will live freely with his loyal animal companions by his side. Meanwhile, Randall's former party remains trapped deep in the dungeon. Monsters swarm from every direction, overwhelming them completely. The situation grows desperate. The enemies prove far stronger than expected, and Quella quietly wishes Randall were still with them, helping to carry their supplies and watching their backs. Loig and the others struggle to maintain formation, but their teamwork crumbles under pressure. Mael snaps at Loig, criticizing his sloppy control and bluntly saying even Randall was better than him. Loig, infuriated, bitterly complains that none of this would have happened if that little guy hadn't died along with their luggage. The party's dire situation weighs heavily on Feudo, the leader. Frustrated, he shouts and charges at a lone monster, striking it down with fierce determination. The rest of the team watches in confusion and shock as he fights wildly. As his teammates call out his name, Feudo stands clutching his sword, despair washing over him. A flashback reveals the roots of his jealousy. Back in their small village, everyone admired Randall as the pride of the community while Feudo remained in the shadows. Randall had topped the exams and earned the title of prodigy, fueling Feudo's twisted envy. At first, that jealousy mixed with admiration, leading him to beg Randall to teach him. Randall agreed and they formed a party. Feudo worked hard, learning from Randall, but never reached his level. Over time, his envy deepened, growing darker. After forming the party, Feudo made sure the others never noticed Randall's true abilities by forcing Randall to carry all their luggage and kept his talents hidden. Now, confronted by the overwhelming monsters, Feudo's hatred for Randall consumes him entirely. He lashes out in fury, demanding why Randall keeps standing in his way. With a powerful strike, he slices the head off a Hydra, convinced that he should be the next hero candidate, not Randall. While heading toward the exit, Randall discovers a treasure chest filled with gold and magical items. Among the loot, he finds a mysterious black cloak and decides to try it on. The moment he wears it, system notifications flood in, announcing that his status has risen and his Necromancer abilities have evolved. The system also announces a new skill, the ability to make his familiars visible or invisible at will. With that, Randall decides to keep Ace hidden for now, knowing others would be terrified to see the massive Minotaur. Instead, he will only reveal Ray for the time being. As he glances at the other gear scattered on the ground, he is reminded of his former party cruelty. But then he steels himself not to be bothered by them. Since they had planned to kick him out anyway, he resolves that once he returns to the guild, he will leave the party for good. Several hours later in the guild, everyone freezes in shock at the sight of someone. You already know, it's Randall walking inside the guild with his massive wolf dog, Ray, by his side. Suddenly, a voice calls out his name from the crowd. It's Nina, the cat girl receptionist with pointed ears, who hurriedly approaches him, relieved that he made it back safely. The tension rises as Randall's unexpected survival quickly becomes the center of attention in the guild. His former party members spot him and freeze, clearly stunned to see him alive and well. Feudo, in particular, feels like he's seeing a ghost. With a nervous tone, he asks how Randall managed to escape, and Randall calmly replies that he defeated all 5 Minotaurs. Feudo says it's not possible. But with a fierce expression, Randall informs him that Ray, his beloved dog, died protecting him. Loig laughs in disbelief and then asks if the dog died. The mutt standing beside him, is it some kind of an illusion or something? But Randall ignores the clueless fool, which pisses him off. As Randall prepares to leave, reminding them he's already been kicked out, Loig grabs his wrist harshly, calling him a low-life piece of filth and demanding to know who he thinks he's talking to. When Loig tries to squeeze Randall's wrist painfully, he stops in shock, noticing that Randall doesn't even flinch and wonders where the guy got such strength. Just then, system notification sounds, announcing Randall has acquired superhuman strength from absorbing the Minotaurs, and Randall finds it amazing. With such strength, Randall knows he can shake off Loig like a useless fly whenever he feels like it, and that's exactly what he did. He yanks his hand free from Loig's grip, violently pushing Loig backwards. The confrontation escalates quickly as Loig retaliates, punching Randall in the face and sending him crashing to the ground. Feudo immediately steps in, ordering Loig to stop attacking Randall. But Loig insists that if Randall had protected their luggage properly, they wouldn't have gone through all that trouble. Right after he says that, Mail reminded Loig that he also performed poorly as a vanguard, and because of his uselessness, Quella got injured. Quella tries to keep the peace by claiming she's fine. But Randall decides to help her, magically pulling out a beautiful robe and telling Quella she can change into it. Surprised to receive such high-quality gear, a definite upgrade from her current outfit, Quella looks at it in awe. But then, Mail explains to everyone that the robe is a reward for beating the dungeon's floor boss. Randall also confirms her story by telling his former teammates that if they need anything from the reward, he's happy to give it to them. But with a nasty grin, the selfish meathead demands that Randall leave everything he got there. Randall is shocked to hear what the donkey is saying and asks if he's really telling him to drop everything. Loig says yes, and then blames Randall for the struggle they suffered back at the dungeon, emphasizing that Randall shouldn't even get any of the loot. Feudo tries to calm him down, but Loig isn't having any of it. His anger explodes as he tries attacking Randall again, grabbing his shirt. But at that moment, Loig freezes in confusion when he sees himself levitating like Doctor Strange. With just a flick of Randall's finger, Ace materializes, carrying Loig like a toy, leaving everyone in shock. With the guild members staring in terror, Randall explains that Ace is one of the minotaurs he annihilated and is now his companion. Feudo, in shock, stammers, asking Randall how it's even possible for a Tamor to summon a dead familiar. Randall replies by reminding him that he had once told them Ray was also dead. Next, Randall points out that he's fine with splitting the loot evenly and then flicks his finger for Ace to drop Loig, and the Minotaur does just that. Turning to Nina, the guild secretary, Randall casually reports that he found 5 treasure chests in the dungeon and the only thing he took was the cloak, so they can split the rest among themselves. When Nina asks if he's sure about his decision, Randall says yes, saying it will be his parting gift. Nina is fine with it, but then recommends that Randall first take whatever's necessary. Randall replies that all he wants is to split the Minotaur's corpse with his former teammates. When a voice tries to protest, Nina explains that Randall has a right to the corpse. Furthermore, she clarifies that by the time Randall annihilated the Minotaurs, he was already going solo and no longer a member of the party. However, she says if Randall insists on splitting it, then she will do just that. But first, she explains the process. She says the guild suggests Randall take whatever's necessary first since he will start doing business with them. Everyone is taken aback to hear that the guild is willing to do business with Randall directly. Nina also points out that after inspection, the guild has concluded Feudo and his party will have to pay for their own part of the treasure. Loig immediately protests the guild's decision to let Randall walk away with all the valuable loot, but Feudo orders him to stop. Feudo steps up and says he understands, but adds that they are broke at the moment. Nina thanks him for his understanding, mentioning that the items will stay in the guild for now since they can't pay for them. With that, the cat girl receptionist turns to Randall and suggests they discuss party cancellation and solo registration in another room. But before they can leave, the annoyed meathead grabs Randall by the collar, demanding to know why he left them when they needed him most. But at that moment, Ray growls at him, ready to grind his flesh into minced meat. For the first time, Loig is terrified at the sight of the beast and immediately lets Randall go. Everyone in the guild starts mocking the almighty Loig for being scared of a dog. Someone in the crowd even speculates, saying there's no place for Loig in the guild anymore. Feudo nervously admits that Loig was wrong about what he said, but insists there's some truth to it, claiming Randall chose to hide the full extent of his strength, knowing the team was in danger. Randall is shocked, struggling to process this twisted logic, and asks if Feudo even understands what he's saying. Nina interrupts, pointing out that they need to hear Randall's side of the story to really determine who's at fault. Feudo tenses up and demands the guild listen to his team's version, but Nina cuts him off, saying the guild has heard enough from them already. Nina reveals that Feudo and his team had previously claimed Randall sacrificed himself, even though they all tried to stop him. Feudo nervously tries to say something, but Nina cuts him off. She warns that giving false reports to the guild is a serious crime, and they could be blacklisted as adventurers who submit fake reports. The cat girl receptionist adds that they risk losing their S-rank status, and depending on the severity, bounty hunters might even be sent after them. However, Nina reassures everyone that the guild will carefully examine both Feudo and his team's claims as well as Randall's side, aiming to make a fair and comprehensive judgment. She asks if everyone is okay with that and says she'll need their full cooperation. With that, she leaves with Randall to the office to hear his side of the story. At that moment, Quella looks at Feudo, who's sweating nervously, fully aware of how serious their situation is. Desperation written all over her face, she suddenly shouts, asking Nina and Randall to wait. Tears welling up, she pleads with Randall to take her with him. Shocked by her request, Randall stares at her in surprise. Before he can respond, Mail also betrays her team, blaming Loig for always stirring up trouble with the chivalric order. She adds that the guild won't overlook false statements, and doubts they'll ever be adventurers again. Both girls are ready to ditch Feudo, seeing Randall now as the better option. Feudo, stunned, can't believe what these backstabbing snakes are spewing from their disgusting face holes as he watches his party's reputation crumble before his eyes. Randall, equally shocked that the girls could so easily betray their comrades when things got tough, firmly tells the cold-hearted hags that he would never form a party with people like them. Quella asks if that's his final decision, knowing her adventuring days are over. Randall replies with a firm yes, then urges Nina that they leave. As Randall and Nina walk up the stairs, Feudo and his team stand in awkward silence, fully aware that their lies are about to be exposed. In the office, Nina hands Randall a mysterious item to help with his organizing skills. At the same time, she admits that what Feudo and his team did was downright stupid. She points out that from the guild's perspective, It was obvious Randall was the true pillar of the party. Randall interrupts, insisting he wasn't, that he was just a useless tamer in charge of carrying the luggage. But the cat girl disagrees. She says that the ability to cover the party's shortcomings while carrying their luggage was only possible because he's a tamer. Without him, she adds, Feudo and his team definitely wouldn't have become an S-rank party. That said, Nina asks again if Randall will consider having Mail and Queller on his team. Randall refuses the offer, declaring there's no way those gold diggers would join. Nina says she understands, but insists the guild still wants an S-rank party. She explains the guild is far from the royal capital, located on the frontier in Margrave's territory. She says when it comes to national defense, they're grateful to have S-ranked adventurers as permanent residents. Nina assures him they'll find suitable members soon enough and asks if he can please form an S-rank party. Still, the young Necromancer refuses, declaring he wants to go solo for now. He announces that this time he's going as a free man. Nina looks shocked by his decision but says she completely understands his reasoning. She then explains that the guild still has a duty to maintain an S-rank party. Cheerfully, she suggests introducing Randall to someone and asks if he would accept them. Randall agrees to consider the offer if she really wants to introduce someone and says he'll think about it carefully. The cat girl gets excited and promises she'll be able to introduce him to someone great. Several days later, in some random village, Randall recalls his special mission. Days ago, Nina had asked him to investigate the vampire village. She explained that although the village was abandoned, many undead creatures had made it their base. She also told him the guild wanted him to deal with the vampire living there. Randall accepts the mission with no complaints, and Nina hints that this investigation might reveal why his powers shifted from a tamer to a necromancer. Suddenly, Randall finds himself face to face with terrifying monsters. A massive minotaur spirit named Ace lets out a thunderous roar, while beside it stands Ray, a one-horned wolf spirit. The creatures look fierce and ready to attack, but not at Randall, but at the undead creatures charging midair toward him. Randall screams at the terrifying scene, but Ace and Ray, his loyal tamed pets, lunges into action, slashing with sharp claws to take down the rotting zombies. But something incredible happens next. A notification appears telling Randall he succeeded in using necromancy. The system reveals that he gained some new skills from the undead. Intrigued, he decides to test this new power further by using a wide area contract to command multiple undead at once. The Necromancer spell works perfectly as he gains even more skills from the creatures around him. This time he gained pain tolerance, flexibility, dietary enhancement, regeneration, physical resistance, and blood recovery. His stats skyrocket as he assimilates these abilities from the undead in his domain. Randall stands amazed as he realizes the true extent of his necromantic abilities. The protagonist can't believe he received such incredible abilities from the horde of undead. Shocked, Randall realizes there's a huge difference between tamming and necromancy. He explains that with tamming, you work alongside creatures even after taking control. But necromancy lets him absorb only their abilities, and if he wants, make the opponent vanish completely. Suddenly, a mysterious voice interrupts him. A blonde vampire girl with bat wings named Miriam appears behind Randall. She's come to see the fool who disturbed her beautiful sleep and even erased her familiars. The vampire girl lets out a wicked laugh, declaring that this will be her revenge for what he did to her family. Without hesitation, Miriam lunges forward, striking Randall with tremendous force. Blood sprays as her claws tear into him, ripping off his right arm. The young man cries out in pain, but quickly notices something strange. It doesn't hurt nearly as much as it should, thanks to his newly acquired pain tolerance skill. Suddenly, Randall's tamed wolf, Ray, leaps into action. But the vampire girl cheerfully asks if the beast wants to play with a wicked smile. Panicking, Randall shouts, warning Ray that these creatures aren't someone he can beat easily. But the white wolf spirit is already charging forward with incredible speed. Miriam effortlessly dodges the attack by leaping aside, and then cackling like a true villain orders the white wolf to sit with a tremendous explosion. Furious over the attack on his companion Ace, the Minotaur spirit, joins the fierce battle against their powerful enemy. But the vampire girl simply flicks her finger, delivering a crushing blow that sends the beast flying backward. The massive Minotaur crashes into the ground with a thunderous impact as debris scatters everywhere. Our protagonist watches in horror as his trusted companion takes serious damage. Shocked, Randall realizes this girl is too strong for them to win. Bleeding heavily from her earlier attack, he knows that at this rate, he'll die from blood loss before she's finished. The vampire girl hovers above him, her bat wings spread wide, wearing a terrifying grin. She declares that playtime is over, her eyes glowing with deadly intent as she prepares to deliver the final blow. Terrified, Randall knows that one more hit will surely mean death. In a desperate move, Randall activates his white inferno skill, summoning a massive swirling vortex of white flames that engulfs the battlefield. But to his shock, Miriam walks calmly amidst the burning flame, completely unscathed. Realizing his magic won't bring her down, Randall groans in frustration. Miriam then mocks him, asking if that's all he's got, but Randall smirks and replies there's more. He follows up with a devastating lightning attack that crackles with immense power. Miriam gasps in shock, mesmerized by the magic before her eyes. The lightning and flames collide violently over the ruined village, creating an explosion that shakes the ground like an atomic blast. Under the cold moonlight, the young man struggles to catch his breath after delivering such a powerful strike. But his frustration increases as the indestructible vampire slowly advances while he remains motionless amidst the rubble, gasping for air. She comments that his unique skills, White Inferno and Lightning, are interesting and admits he's piqued her interest with those powerful abilities while Randall sits motionless clutching his injured arm. Suddenly, Miriam's mood shifts, and she cheerfully asks Randall to become her genus. Confused, Randall stammers the word genus in shock. Miriam proudly declares that she, the Lord of Pure Blood, is willing to make him her genus, and then demands to know if he will accept. Realizing he stands no chance against such a powerful foe and might die otherwise, Randall cautiously asks if becoming a genus means forming a blood contract with her. He also wonders what exactly happens when someone does that. Miriam blushes, admitting she has no idea herself, and then snaps, saying it's her first time. Randall then asks for her name, and the vampire girl proudly introduces herself, emphasizing that she is a pure-blood vampire lord. With that, Randall tells her he has a proposal. Miriam, feeling in a good mood, agrees to listen to everything he has to say. Before Randall can speak, he notices his ripped arm, now fully restored as if it had never been injured. Staring at it in disbelief, Miriam explains that she used her skill, Lord of the Night, to return his arm. With what she has done, Randall reflects that it's safe to conclude that the vampire girl poses no threat to humans. So gathering courage, he makes a bold bet and asks if she'll become his friend. Miriam looks taken aback by the unexpected request, wondering what he truly means by friend. After a brief pause, a sad expression washes over her face as she admits she's scared. Randall, confused, asks if she's scared of him, but Miriam replies that she's scared of humans in general. She explains that vampires and humans are fundamentally incompatible because humans are living beings. Yet, even those who don't interfere with humans have been hunted down and eliminated. Her voice softens as she talks about this persecution, admitting she can't trust humans after everything that's happened. However, she adds that if he becomes her genus, she won't be betrayed, since a genus is like a subordinate comrade or a child. Understanding her situation, Randall agrees to become her genus. In return, he asks her to make a contract with him using necromancy, so they can stand as equals rather than as master and servant. Miriam looks surprised by Randall's unexpected proposal, but agrees to become his friend, impressed by his persistence. To seal their unusual new friendship, she breaks into a huge smile and cheerfully greets him with a handshake. With everything settled, Miriam asks what they should do now that their friendship contract is formed. Randall then suggests she consider becoming an adventurer alongside him, and Miriam lights up with excitement, shouting that it sounds like a lot of fun. Curious, she then asks what happens when someone forms a contract with a necromancer, and Randall admits it's his first time too, so he doesn't know. Putting that aside, Miriam confesses she forgot to mention something important. She says she will set aside his becoming her genus for now, so they can get to know each other first. When Randall asks why, she explains that becoming someone's genus is a contract that can never be broken, and breaking it means death for both parties. So she thinks it's better to start with something lighter. Randall understands and suggests they head back to the guild together to register Miriam as an adventurer. Miriam panics at the thought of being around so many humans, but Randall quickly reassures her that she's with him, so everything will be fine. Randall seems genuinely happy about his newfound friendship with the vampire girl, and so under the night sky, the unlikely pair prepare to depart on their new adventure. As the wind grows stronger, Randall travels with Ace and Ray by his side. Since it's getting late, he spots an inn and suggests they rest for the night. Inside the inn, they discover there's only space for 2 people. Randall then apologizes, saying he could only get 1 room. However, Miriam cheerfully says it's fine since getting another room would be wasteful. As they settle into the room, the vampire girl recalls that they haven't formed the contract using necromancy yet and suggests they do it now. Randall agrees and activates his necromancy ability. Suddenly, a massive swirl of necromantic energy surrounds both of them. After that, a notification appears saying the contract is complete. The system confirms Randall has formed a contract with the vampire Lord Miriam. Randall suddenly feels a mysterious sensation flowing through his body, and at that moment multiple skill notifications appear showing he has gained incredible new abilities like blood regeneration, black wings, and Lord of the Night. This confirms that since they formed a contract using Necromancer, their skills are now shared. As Randall's stats increase, Ray, Ace, and Miriam's statuses also improve substantially, thanks to familiar strengthening. Following this transformation, Miriam comments that it looks like it was quite a tiring journey for him, and then says goodnight to Randall as they prepare to sleep. She reminds him they have to wake up early tomorrow. Randall agrees and wishes her good night as well. Meanwhile, elsewhere in town, Randall's former party faces the harsh reality. They sit in despair as their world crumbles around them. The tension in the room is suffocating, with blame flying everywhere. Loig urges Mael to do something about their situation, but she turns the question back on him, asking whose fault it really is that things ended up this way. Overcome with emotion, Mael breaks down, admitting they can't escape being blacklisted by the guild. She explains that they went too far back in the dungeon. She says there's no turning back now from their terrible decisions, and it's probably the end for all of them. With faces full of despair, they all realize their adventuring careers might be over. Feudo, meanwhile, wonders how many more times Randall will keep interfering with his plans. He questions how long he'll have to live in Randall's shadow as he stares out the window, with bitterness and resentment for Randall growing stronger with every passing moment. The next day, Miriam, Randall, and his loyal familiars head into the forest to solve the issue with the corpses. Before they begin, Miriam warns Ace and Ray that once this starts, they won't be able to return and asks if they're fine with that. The familiars nod in affirmation. With that, Miriam casts dark magic on Ace and Ray's corpses, which are immediately swallowed up by a dark, gooey liquid. Moments later, they explode, and Miriam assures them the ritual was a success. Hearing this, Ray and Ace smile excitedly. Suddenly, a flash of intense, bright light surrounds the beasts, and a system notification appears, announcing that their status will be greatly enhanced due to evolution. Instantly, Ray and Ace evolved into their highest-grade species forms. Ace becomes a unique monster, while Ray evolves into a Fenrir. While watching the beasts evolve, Miriam explains to Randall that for Ace and Ray to grow stronger, their bodies had to fuse with their spirits. After the transformation, Ace and Ray happily cuddle up to their master and Miriam grins, saying it's surprising, but she can understand why they like Randall so much. Following that, Randall tells Miriam that after making the pact the day before at the inn, he accidentally gained some new skills and would like her to teach him how to use them. Curious, Miriam asks what skills he acquired, but she's shocked to the core when Randall says he gained Lord of the Night and Black Fog. He quickly clarifies that these are unique skills. To make sure she hasn't actually lost them, she tests the abilities and is relieved when they activate, confirming Randall is just borrowing them. So, she decides to teach Randall how to use the skills, saying she's only doing this because she considers him her friend. Randall gets flustered by the compliment, causing Miriam to snap in embarrassment, but Randall quickly apologizes. First, Miriam explains Black Fog. She says it's the ability to produce fog and atomize oneself. She adds that as long as Black Fog is active, attacks can't reach you. Then for Lord of the Night, Miriam says it uses the user's magic power as a base to generate familiars. Miriam adds that if the familiars drink blood, their lifespan increases. In other words, undead energy is like blood to vampires. She tells him they're much more similar than he thinks, and Randall agrees. Following that, Miriam asks about the skill Randall used on his familiars the night before. Randall asks if she means the Coffin of the Dead spirit skill. She says yes, then suggests he use Nightfall Coffin instead. As the system announces that Nightfall Coffin has been obtained, Miriam explains that with Coffin of the Dead, he can only store corpses, but with Nightfall Coffin, he can store practically anything. Intrigued, Randall decides to try out the skill with their bags, and is amazed when all their belongings disappear into the invisible coffin. Randall finds it really convenient because with this skill, they won't need to carry any belongings by hand anymore. Ace feels a bit down hearing this, but Randall assures him that just because they don't have to carry the belongings doesn't mean he doesn't have a role anymore. Ace lets out an excited, satisfied grunt, while Randall smiles cheerfully. With that, Randall suggests it's time to get going. But before they leave, he suddenly remembers something. He asks Miriam if it's true that vampires have a lot of weaknesses, because it looks like she can walk in daylight just fine. Miriam snaps angrily, warning him not to underestimate her. She points out that although she's a vampire lord, so sunlight and holy water don't affect her. Randall then asks if she can survive a wooden stake through her heart, and Miriam confirms she can. This revelation hits Randall hard, finally making him realize the vampire girl is basically invincible. To start on their journey, Miriam spreads her wings, excited to go on her first human adventure with Randall. But to her utter shock, Randall pulls out vampire wings from his own back too. When she asks how that's even possible, Randall just shrugs and says it seems he absorbed them. Before long, Randall and Miriam arrive at the guild. As they head inside, Randall notices Miriam looking nervous and asks if she's okay going in. He reminds her that it was the guild that handled the vampire extermination missions. Miriam turns and asks if the guild still takes on such missions. Randall replies that lately there haven't been any vampires, so there haven't been any orders from the government. With a confident smile, Miriam brags that she doubts anyone in the guild could even defeat her, and Randall nervously agrees. As they finally step inside the guild, everyone starts muttering about the gorgeous hottie beside Randall. Some comment on how big Ray has gotten, while others talk about how Randall brought a minotaur last time. Impressed, Miriam mentions that Randall is quite popular, but Randall disagrees, saying she's the center of attraction. Embarrassed, Miriam asks if she looks messed up, but Randall smiles and says no. Nina, the cat girl receptionist, spots them from inside and calls out Randall's name, also pointing out the beauty he's with. Miriam gets flustered at first but quickly regains her composure and starts teasing Nina, saying she's quite a beauty herself and might consider eating her up. Randall quickly steps between them and apologizes to Nina for Miriam's crazy behavior, explaining that Miriam is quite an oddball. He then introduces Miriam as his new comrade. With that, Nina informs Randall that Miriam will have to take the registration test to determine her ranking. Miriam also says she'd like Randall to have his rank assessed after recent events. Shortly afterward, the guild sets up a training area with targets, and members gather to watch. Nina explains that since Randall's partner is running late, they'll start with Miriam. He tells Miriam that all she has to do is attack the target in the center of the field however she wants. Miriam says she understands, but Nina asks her to wait a moment while she gets everything ready. With Nina gone, Miriam whispers to Randall that her gut is warning her breaking the target might be disastrous. Randall agrees. When Miriam asks how much she needs to hold back, Randall advises her by asking if she has some sort of weapon. Miriam reveals a family heirloom knife that's been passed down for generations, and Randall assures her that will do. Randall tells her that if the target ever breaks, everyone will just blame it on the weapon, and Miriam praises the idea as a smart one. When Nina calls out for her to begin the test, Miriam approaches the target wielding her knife. Voices around her whisper, calling her a princess for not using magic or any long-distance attack. But Miriam launches herself forward with incredible speed. She strikes with devastating force, completely obliterating the testing target. The impact creates a massive explosion that shakes the entire training ground, surprising everyone, and the crowd starts asking if the target is broken or something. Nevertheless, they all admit that Miriam is a promising rookie. Randall, trying to cover for her, turns to Nina and tries to convince her that the target must have been old. Nina, with no choice, accepts that must be the reason and then reveals that Miriam has earned a B rank for her performance. After Miriam's test, Nina turns to notice that Randall's sparring partner has arrived. Randall's face shows shock. His sparring partner is none other than Luminous Rivest, the youngest solo adventurer to hold the S-rank title. The blonde knight Luminous brags about how popular she's become with her holy sword. Then she insists they start the test immediately. After all, they're both busy people. Luminous does some light stretching and warm-up before launching forward with incredible speed. As she approaches, Randall notices the terrible aura radiating from her and realizes just how fearsome she truly is. Luminous asks if he's ready, and Randall braces himself for her attack. Here she comes. Randall panics and desperately calls out to Ray and Ace for help. His loyal familiars burst into action immediately, surprising Luminous and halting her attack. She stops in her tracks, amazed by the power of a Necromancer. After a brief moment, Luminous vanishes into thin air, leaving everyone stunned. Suddenly, she reappears midair, launching an attack on Ray. She strikes with devastating precision, sending Ray crashing backward. But the giant Minotaur attacks, ready to protect their master. Ace hits the ground with tremendous force as dust and debris fly everywhere, but Luminous evades by leaping high. At the same time, the wolf dog lunges forward with deadly intent, charging at the knight with fierce determination, but Luminous easily blocks the attack, moving like lightning across the battlefield. Both familiars attack with unrelenting effort, and Luminous can't help but commend how both beasts have surpassed a rank in strength. As the battle intensifies, Randall cheers on his boys, clearly impressed. But this only pisses Luminous off. She launches an attack midair at Randall, taunting him for being a femboy who lets his familiars fight for him. Randall panics and suddenly activates his black fog ability, creating a massive dark cloud. The training ground fills with swirling mist as his form disappears completely. Luminous is taken aback by the sudden move, but Randall manages to escape sudden death. Luminous notes that Randall seems to possess an interesting ability. Then, without warning, she delivers a sneak attack from behind, desperate to show him just how slow he is. Meanwhile, Miriam and Nina watch nervously from the sidelines. As Luminous closes in and declares the battle over, Nina covers her eyes in horror, not wanting to see what's coming next. Suddenly, Luminous gasps in surprise as her attack meets resistance. Randall grabs her sword with his bare hands to block it. Blood drips from his wounds as he struggles to stay standing. Luminous can't believe the boy sacrificed his arm just to block her devastating strike. Impressed by his savage defense, she ends the duel, acknowledging his determination. She announces for all to hear that Randall has passed the test. Officially, by the name of her holy sword, she grants him the right to call himself an S-rank. The guild members erupt in excitement, chanting Randall's name and cheering his performance. Randall thanks Luminous gratefully, but admits honestly that it doesn't feel like a real victory. Luminous replies that he hasn't won yet, and it will take him a lifetime to actually defeat her. However, with a mysterious smile, she jokes that she has a feeling it'll happen one day. System notifications appear, showing Randall has gained new abilities. He acquires the extra skills Super Reactions and Ultrasensory, both absorbed through his abilities. With the duel concluded, Nina excitedly runs to Randall, congratulating him on attaining S-rank status. She also points out that, besides his familiars getting stronger, he himself has become incredibly powerful, leaving Randall speechless at the compliment. Luminous approaches Randall and cheerfully declares that it was a great fight. She suggests they fight again soon and offers a handshake. Randall agrees with excitement, saying they definitely should. The two fighters shake hands firmly in a spirit of sportsmanship. Luminous mentions she'll go play with some dragons nearby, but before leaving, she prays for Randall's success. With Luminous gone, Miriam notices Randall's arm bleeding heavily and panics. Randall tries to brush it off, saying he's fine, but Miriam uses her Lord of the Night ability to heal his injured arm. Unfortunately, Nina witnesses the magic Miriam performs with the bats and nearly faints from shock. She quickly grabs both of them, commanding them to follow her to the office. Once inside, Nina is furious, scolding Randall for not telling her Miriam was a vampire. Randall apologizes, then tries to explain that although Miriam is a vampire, that's her past, and she's clearly scared of humans in general. Miriam feels bad hearing them argue about her and says she will be leaving. Nina stops her, asking why she's suddenly planning to leave. Miriam responds that she doesn't want to make a big deal out of it and didn't really want to stay anyway. But Nina insists there's no problem. She explains she's only upset because Randall lied to her. She angrily reminds Randall that giving false reports to the guild is a felony, and Randall replies that he understands. Nina points out that as long as he understands, he knows she'll have to report the issue to the guild master. With that, Nina leads them into a room where a man is sitting with his back to them. Randall immediately recognizes him as Gillen. The man suddenly stands from his chair and introduces himself as Gillen, the guild master. He tells Randall it's a pleasure to meet him. Gillen approaches them and asks if Miriam is the rumored girl. He then introduces himself to Miriam, saying it's a pleasure to meet her. When he calls her a high-ranking demon, he unknowingly massages her ego. Miriam brags that she's a vampire lord and commends him, saying he has good eyesight. Gillen seems interested in the relationship Randall has with Miriam and assumes Randall must be her kin or something. But Miriam excitedly speaks up, saying Randall is her friend. Gillen smiles and mentions he has something to say before anything else. Unexpectedly, he kneels down and apologizes, explaining that if he were more competent, things with Randall's former party wouldn't have turned out the way they did. Randall immediately tells him not to apologize and says there's no need for it. However, Gillen mentions that since Feudo and his team were an S-rank party, he can't ban them outright. Instead, they'll be placed under house arrest. As for Loig, Gillen assures Randall that he's planning to punish him soon. When Randall asks what kind of punishment, Gillen clarifies that Loig will have his license revoked, meaning he won't be able to return to the Order of Knights. Furthermore, Gillen says Feudo and the girls will be demoted to A rank. He doubts anyone will be willing to help them, given the bad rumors spreading after the incident since everyone is scared to associate with them. Finally, Gillen asks if they can keep Miriam's identity as a vampire a secret for a while. Miriam responds that she doesn't mind, but asks if it's because she's a vampire. Gillen explains that some especially high-ranking officials find vampires annoying in their own way. However, he reveals the biggest reason is that they don't want Miriam to go through more trouble than she already has. With a warm smile, Gillen tells Miriam that he likes her, causing her to blush at the unexpected compliment and look genuinely touched. Randall then excitedly turns to Miriam and assures her that vampires are no longer seen as hostile creatures by humans. With a warm smile, he tells her that not all humans are bad. Miriam agrees, saying he is absolutely right. That said, Gillen mentions the main reason he invited them is because he has a quest that needs their attention. Randall looks confused, wondering why him. Gillen lights his cancer stick and says he wants Randall to investigate a dragon's graveyard for the mission. Gillen explains the mission to Randall and Miriam. He mentions that the location is in the mountainous region to the north, where the remains of a giant dragon, defeated by a hero, lie. Miriam seems confused and asks why the dragon's remains have been left untouched for so long, since they're a valuable resource for humans. Gillen simply replies that it's because the dragon was too large. He reveals that heroes back then lacked the strength to defeat it and the skill to carry the dragon away. As a result, the dragon's bones were left to rot, and the enormous magical power in the corpse gradually turned into a deadly miasma. Gillen mentions that a priest had been exorcising the miasma periodically. However, the priest is now effectively under house arrest, meaning the dangerous miasma is building up with no one to control it. Gillen admits this is why he asked Randall for help. He says it's not a bad deal for them either. Gillen explains that the fact Miriam is a vampire will eventually become public, but when it does, it'll be useful to have a powerful ally like him. Randall considers the mission carefully. He reasons they could use this case as an opportunity to showcase a vampire's strength, but expresses his concerns. He says he can investigate the situation but can't promise the problem will be solved. Gillen is about to finalize the deal when Nina interrupts, suggesting he tell Randall the truth instead of sugarcoating it. Gillen agrees, but coldly warns them never to tell anyone. The guild master explains the reasoning behind the secrecy. He mentions that the dragon's graveyard is surrounded by dangerous miasma unprecedented in the guild's records. When Randall asks if he means there's an anomaly, Gillen confirms it, revealing that the true mission is to take down a dragon zombie. Miriam seems intrigued by what she just heard, but Randall, scared, stresses the gravity of their situation and asks if she has a plan. Miriam replies that she knows it will be tough to handle alone, but with a cheerful smile says that with him, the mission will be a piece of cake. Randall asks her not to overestimate him, though he admits it would be an honor. Gillen shows confidence in the young necromancer's unique abilities, but mentions that, as customary, the guild will form a unit to support them in defeating the dragon zombie. Nina also says she believes that with Randall, everything will be fine. When Randall asks where she gets such confidence, Nina exclaims it's because he is a unique class. She adds that she did some research on necromancers and discovered that Randall is the first necromancer in the guild's history. And Randall asks if unique classes are that rare. Nina confirms it, saying it's because they have outstanding abilities. She reveals that the Demon Lord, the Hero, and Luminous are all unique classes, shocking Randall. Miriam then holds Randall's hands, assuring him that if things go south, she will step in. Gillen concludes by saying he expects a lot from them. Despite everyone's faith in him, Randall can't help but feel uncertain about the mission. Knowing he can't betray their expectations, he vows to do his best and live up to their trust, and then tells Gillen to leave it to them. The next day, Gillen and Nina escort Randall, Miriam, and Ray to the edge of the forest and wish them luck, asking them to be careful. Randall thanks them, after which he and his companions set out on their dangerous new adventure to the dragon's graveyard. On the way, Randall turns to Miriam with a curious question, asking why she doesn't just fly when they travel together. Miriam looks surprised but explains that for short distances, she prefers walking. After that, she admits she's getting tired, so Randall suggests they take a quick rest. As they rest, Miriam asks how much longer until they reach their destination. Randall replies it will take a while and suggests stopping in the nearby town of Adding. Suddenly, Miriam gets excited about preparing for their mission. She eagerly asks Randall to tell her more about investigation quests, especially everything about the sleeping dragon's graveyard. Randall agrees, explaining how investigation quests work in the guild system. He tells her there are two main types: group investigations, which pay little or no basic fee, and special investigations, which require a similar level of trust and pay based on the value of what the investigation reveals. After that, Randall shares what he knows about their legendary ancestors. He says the dragon has become part of local folklore, stories parents tell their children before bed. But there's more to this particular tale. Long ago, a fearsome dragon terrorized the surrounding villages. The beast demanded a sacrifice once a year. If the villagers refused or the dragon disliked the offering, misfortune would strike their homes. Desperate, the villagers began worshipping the dragon as a god, hoping to appease its wrath. Then everything changed when the empire expanded into the region. One day, the dragon stopped by a nearby empire on a whim. The battle that followed was fierce and costly for both sides. Even the mighty dragon suffered wounds across its massive body. But before more lives were lost, something unexpected happened. Suddenly, a legendary hero appeared on the battlefield. Miriam looks confused and Randall explains the twist. He reveals the hero was responsible for destroying both the Empire and the evil dragons. Then Randall shrugs it off, calling it just a fairy tale. Some tailies paint the dragon as the village's ally, others as evil. But one thing is certain. There is a dead dragon and a fallen empire, and the dragon's graveyard has become a dangerous place, filled with miasma. In addition, some adventurers venture there in search of demons, or to obtain medicine from the dragon's bones. With everything said, Miriam stands and says they should leave for their destination. Randall asks if she's sure about this dangerous mission. Miriam replies that they won't know the full details until they actually arrive. The trio prepares to continue their journey toward the dragon's graveyard. Before long, they finally arrive at the bustling town of Adine. The cobblestone streets are filled with various people going about their daily business. Ray lets out an excited bark as they explore the lively marketplace, but Randall apologizes and tells the dog to return to his coffin. Meanwhile, Miriam notices something interesting about the town's atmosphere. She points out that many demi-humans live here peacefully. Randall explains that this place has become a gathering spot for demi-humans, beastmen, elves, and other races who have lived here since ancient times. He adds that there's no discrimination or persecution in this town. Randall asks if she likes the town, and Miriam seems fascinated by the peaceful coexistence, declaring the town wonderful. Then Randall realizes they have a practical concern to address. He says they need to procure supplies and grab a bite to eat, but he wonders if the vampire girl can safely consume the same foods as humans. Miriam cheerfully explains how convenient her vampire abilities are. She reveals she feeds on mana instead of traditional food, which means she can collect energy from her familiars without trouble. Randall says it's fine since her feeding is all settled. But the vampire princess yells that's not what she meant and then gets excited talking about how much she loves human food. She says she especially loves cookies, describing them as amazing and full of energy. Several hours earlier, inside an apartment, Loig suddenly bursts in, excitedly shouting Feudo's name. When asked what's going on and why he's in such a hurry, Loig eagerly announces he's found out Randall's next assignment. He tells Feudo that Randall's next location is the dragon's graveyard and suggests they go there too. Quella panics at the idea and reminds the potato brain that they're still under house arrest. But the silent and calculating male comments that if they do well, they can still clear their names. Loig chimes in, saying he's heard strange things are happening at the location. He adds there must be a reason why Gillen is keeping the assignment secret and specifically asked for Randall. Still, Feudo dismisses the whole dragon thing as mere rumor, but Loig insists it's no rumor this time. He emphasizes that the dragon zombie might actually resurrect, and only Quella the Saint will be able to use her powers to stop the monster. Quella is surprised to hear this, but Loig reminds her she's the only one who can truly defeat the dragon zombie. Nervous, Quella mentions that the girl with Randall is also quite powerful. Loig grabs her by the shoulder, asking her not to be a coward. He explains that if they don't do anything about the zombie dragon, the whole country will be in trouble. But if they do act to stop it, it will be a great honor for them. Loig insists they act as a team and asks Feudo what he thinks about the suggestion. At that moment, Feudo reflects on the situation. He thinks about the torture he suffered being in Randall's shadow, coupled with everything that has happened recently. His desperation grows, and he agrees with Loig, telling Quella that they will need her powers if the dragon zombie does resurrect. Banging her fist on the table, Quella reasons that if she does her best, everyone will be saved and they won't be in trouble again. She declares that she will do it, and the whole team is fired up to prove how much the people still needs them. Meanwhile, at the guild, Gillen receives an official order from Lord Cecilum, the lord in charge of the province. The order includes Loig's picture and instructs that his license is hereby revoked. Back in the city, on their way to get food, Miriam grows tense at the sight of so many people. Randall notices and reassures her that as long as humans aren't hostile, she should be fine around the demi-humans too. Trying to appear more natural, Miriam suddenly grabs Randall's hand. Gets flustered, and their awkwardness draws stares from everyone on the road. Miriam's eyes widen in surprise when she spots something she likes. She quickly drags Randall toward a stall selling food, then later tries on a dress she fancies. The fun activity has both of them smiling. Shortly afterward, they finally arrive at the dragon's graveyard with Ray riding them there. The first thing they notice is how dark the forest is. Randall points out that the last time he came here, it wasn't this dark. He wonders why the place has worsened over the years and speculates it must be because the miasma is increasing. Miriam explains that a corpse of a magical creature left to rot in such a place would almost certainly become undead, except the dragon must be suppressing it. Randall broods over Miriam's comment and speculates that whatever is suppressing the dragon from becoming undead must be overflowing. That's likely why Gillen asked him to investigate. Miriam agrees. This frightens Randall. He thinks to himself that if a monster or any creature wanders into a place like this, there's a high risk it will become a demon lord class. After walking deeper into the forest, they stumble upon what looks like a giant fan. Miriam recognizes the device as a priest's magical tool, a device that controls the level of miasma. She explains to Randall that the device feeds excess miasma to weak creatures and monsters nearby, creating balance and preventing these creatures from dying. But Miriam is confused about why the device is suddenly overflowing with miasma. She speculates it might be because the dragon is about to run out of magical power. Randall doesn't quite understand what she means, so Miriam illustrates by saying a candle burns brightest right before it goes out. Understanding this, Randall suggests that since it will eventually go out, there's no problem and it's best to just leave the place alone. But Miriam disagrees. She explains that if left unchecked, the dragon will gather an enormous amount of miasma and then turn into an undead. Panicking, Randall asks if there's anything they can do to prevent it. Miriam immediately suggests they direct all the miasma at the dragon and strike it down the moment it resurrects, but Randall opposes this. Miriam then suggests she take in the miasma and try to reduce it. First, she says they'll have to check the dragon's condition and eliminate any other creatures besides the dragon. Randall agrees, and Miriam casts nightfall magic to create a path to where the dragon lies. They eventually find the skeletal remains of the dragon. Seeing its state, Miriam suggests they don't do anything unnecessary. She explains that after a few decades, its magical energy will run out and everything will return to normal. Randall agrees, saying it's best to prohibit anyone from entering the area. He also points out they need to make sure there are no creatures or objects nearby. To ensure that, Randall offers to use his necromancy powers. Meanwhile, spying from deep inside the bushes are Feudo and his crew. As they try to figure out what Randall is up to, they are shocked to see that Ray has evolved into a Fenrir. The last time they saw the dog, he was just a one-horned mutt. Quello explains that the familiar must have undergone some kind of evolution, but Feudo disagrees, saying there's no way Randall can be a legendary tamer. Putting that aside, Feudo instructs them to get to the dragon and investigate, which they all agree to. Feudo and his team eventually make it to where the fan device is, and Loig suggests they take action. With a confused expression, Feudo asks the maniac what exactly he wants them to do. Loig explains that if the dragon awakens by chance, they should defeat it before Randall does and take the credit. Feudo completely disagrees, saying the dragon can't be revived for another few decades. Loig gets pissed and stresses how dire their situation is. He reminds his teammates that because of Randall, they were stripped of their S-rank party status. Mail interrupts, reminding Loig that his situation is worse. She says he can't even be an adventurer anymore, and as a party, they can't do much without a vanguard. Feudo responds that he understands their situation but still doesn't see what that has to do with awakening an ancient dragon. Frustrated, Loig calls him slow-brained and says if it weren't for him, they'd still be B-rank. Loig clarifies that in a messy situation like theirs, they're done for unless they defeat a Calamity-class monster. He tells everyone all they have to do is wake the big guy up and then crush him. At that moment, Feudo and the girls start to see reason in what Loig is saying, but Quella protests, saying it would be stupid to deliberately wake a dragon. In response, Loig asks if she wants to go down in history as the cold-hearted and most useless saintess who abandoned her companions. Placing his hand on her shoulder, he advises her that to avoid that, she must be ready to slay the dragon and become a hero. Then she will solidify her status as the Saintess of Miracles. Those words hit Quella like a brick, and she immediately begins imagining herself as the Saintess all the children revere. With that, she agrees to do exactly what Loig wants, to awaken the dragon. She moves close to the fan device, cross-totem in hand. As she casts a spell, a massive miasmic blast erupts from the device. But suddenly, Quella notices something is wrong. When asked what's wrong, Quella shouts that she's lost all control over the device. Panic spreads through the team, and Mail immediately casts an invisibility spell to prevent them from being seen. With chaos unfolding, Loig suggests they get the heck out of there. When Feudo asks what will happen to the dragon zombie, Loig replies that they'll return as soon as the dragon takes care of Randall. With a wicked expression, Loig asks if that isn't a great idea. Feudo and the girls freeze in shock at how twisted Loig is but agree and flee. Just then, Miriam notices the presence of people nearby and immediately leaps high to check. Curious, Randall activates his black wings to catch up. When they reach the fan device, Miriam explains she came because the device was acting weird and because she sensed someone's presence nearby. With everything going on, Randall asks if everything is okay with the dragon's corpse since the device has been altered. Miriam replies that she's also worried and suggests they check the dragon as soon as possible. The moment they reach the skeletal dragon, they notice an ominous aura emanating from it. Miriam immediately points out how serious the situation is. He explains that the dragon has absorbed too much miasma and is already on its way to becoming a dragon zombie. Randall starts to panic and asks how long it will take before the dragon becomes a full-fledged zombie. Miriam says a few minutes at best. When Randall asks if they stand a chance to defeat it, Miriam says they don't have to defeat it. Judging from the dragon's condition, she doesn't think it will survive long after waking as a dragon zombie. She believes the dragon will only last about half an hour or so. That's when Randall will step in and, using his necromancy, subjugate the dragon's spirit. Suddenly, the ground beneath them starts to shake like an earthquake of unimaginable scale. Miriam announces that the dragon is about to wake and asks Randall to try to stay alive for just 30 minutes. The zombie dragon awakens, letting out a thunderous roar as its wings flap loudly. Randall stares nervously at the beast, but Miriam reminds him all he has to do is hold out for 30 minutes and try not to die. Will Randall and Vampire Girl defeat the zombified ancient dragon? Comment, Greatest Necromancer, if you're hyped to see what happens next in Part 2. If you enjoyed this video, drop a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content. Thanks for watching, as always.